that. Okay,
Yeah.
that's fair. Eddie, what up?
Yo, Wagwan.
Go ahead.
Yo, so interesting responses. I always liken this conversation strictly to masculinity.
Mm-hmm.
Um, to me, there's no derivative of masculinity. Anything outside of masculinity is not masculinity, right? Let's call it beta, right? For me, it's just like if you are not exhibiting the level of understanding, provision, protection, consistency, responsibility, the things that I know what manhood are, for me, it's just like something's off, right? And I think we were discussing what that looks like specifically for the Black community. You got to consider we have an excess of broken homes. So to answer the question, yeah, there's a shit ton of quote unquote beta males out here. Sometimes it's their fault, sometimes it's not their fault. Whether or not they seek help, therapy, or male circles where they can grow and learn some of the components that they're missing, that's on them. But for the most part, in my day-to-day interactions, there's certain things I just pick up that I've never seen my father, uncles, or anything like that do. And if I have the time, I pull them aside, like, yo, have you ever looked at this behavior in this way? As a way to kind of like uplift that man, right? Whether it's a young man, and I'm a former educator, or a grown man, like, yo, like, look at it this way, bro. Like, it's not a good look when you do that type of shit, right? So for me, it's just like it's a matter of masculinity or not.
Some of the things that our fathers did was characterized as toxic, though.
Right. Yeah, I don't ascribe to that toxic masculinity stuff, right? Like
Okay.
some of that stuff, yeah, is pervasively ignorant. If you unfortunately came from an unhealthy home where the masculine energy was not the best, that's problematic. I'm not saying that there's no way to word that. But in terms of the phrase toxic masculinity, it's coined by two white homosexual men. So I don't ascribe to that shit. But overall, like, yeah, are there traits where men act on some bullshit? Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Word.
Shit like that. Shit like that. Shit like that.
Q, what up, though?
Shit like that.
What up, baby?
What you think? Are most men actually beta males?
I like the way that you posed the question where you use the word most. I think that's important because it's not all. So I can answer this truthfully from my perspective in saying yes.
Mm-hmm. Break that down.
I was kind of speak to some of what Eddie was hitting on. I think he kind of took that point that as I'm listening to everybody talk, for me, it comes more from an identity. And if you have taken into account, most Black homes in America have no two-parent unit. So, with there being so many women raising boys, and this is no disrespect to the women, because I think there are women who do a phenomenal job raising boys. So again, I'm speaking to the majority. You're not going to have that identity piece that's necessary to be an alpha male, in my opinion. I know Eris feels, that it is an innate characteristic of Black men, but I don't think it's limited to that. I think that it's something that starts in you from a young age. And if you don't have that, you have to do the work later in life to get to that point. I think even if you look at the examples that young Black boys have for the most part of men, and this goes back to our society and TV and all this other shit. And I forgot where I heard this, but it's like niggas is either gay or some type of rapper thug killer. And so where do you get alpha from that? And that's no disrespect to a homosexual. Not to say that they're not homosexual men who can have alpha character, but over feminizing is where I'm going with that.
Can a man be gay and be alpha?
Yeah. But I'm talking about that over feminine,
like the flamboyant.
Yeah, exactly. So now you're mainly around your mama, your auntie, your grandma, whoever, who have these natural feminine characteristics. and then your examples of men on TV are going to be some type of beta regardless. So it's like it's giving, and that's their blueprint. I think you do those small circles, which is kind of what you guys are speaking to, where you do have alpha males, but it's about, I think, kind of getting that image out there a little bit more, and kind of getting you guys in the community a lot more too. But if there were not as many beta in the black community, it would be where we are right now.
I have a question.
You faded out a little bit. Go ahead, Alex.
So I really liked what Asia said in the sense of, I think an alpha trait, I feel like there are some spaces where you can just tell and you can point out who the alpha is in the room. And there are some people, they walk into a room and they command a presence. They don't have to do too much. They're not the loudest in the room. You know, maybe they're not the over the top person, but they're observing things. They're constantly watching. They're constantly aware of their surroundings. But when they speak, they command that presence. And just in hearing what everyone is considering like an alpha male versus a beta male, I think, as my question is for the men, do you think you can identify, could you walk into a room of men, do you think you can identify who the leader is without someone pointing it out to you?
Absolutely.
And
The same way you can. Just by how men carry themselves. You can tell instantly he's got some alpha characteristics or some alpha qualities to him. Then you get to learn about him. You can decide whether or not it's all up front. But a lot of dudes can walk in with their chest out, and you know what I'm saying, it looks that way. But once you get to talking to him, it ain't the same thing. But I did hint. I wanted to chime in on this real quick because I look back at the definition, right? And ladies, this is a shout to y'all because it says see also alpha male, and you got to click on it. But under the definition of having the highest rank in a dominance, a hierarchy, underneath it says example, the alpha female in an elephant pack. So to the question, I guess to the question, yes, women can be alphas. And Q, I wanted to ask you, I wasn't quite sure I understood what you were saying, although I did agree with a lot of it in needing more male representation. Were you saying that single mothers are I don't know if the word was incapable, single mothers can't raise an alpha male?
No.
Okay, that's okay. That's what I heard. All good.
When you find that, it's gonna be rare. Like I think it's Chico Bean who talks about his mom and you know how she dealt with him growing up and the shit that she used to instill in him. That's rare. That's not your typical single mother.
Yeah.
So would you consider single mothers raising young men alphas?
I wouldn't. Statistically, that's not the case.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Not if we're speaking about a large number. No.
Yeah, but Q's saying it's not impossible, but she said the probability is low.
That's why I want to check on it because I was low key offended. I'm not gonna front because I'm from a single parent home. My mom's did that, but I personally believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe when I walk into a room, I'm one of the guys you can look at and go, okay, like you can kind of see that in how I carry myself. So and that was from my mom's, all from my mom's.
Yeah, and
you know what I'm saying? So.
And like that small number of you guys, you know what I mean? Like you're gonna see that, but it's not gonna be as much as you know the large majority of men, especially young boys, especially this upcoming generation. You don't see that, in my opinion, as much. But hell yeah, there's single moms out there killing it. You know what I mean? But to me, for definition, for an alpha male, you know, he's somebody who has a backbone. You know what I mean? If you're in that happy wife, happy life bullshit, and you really kind of just let her take over, like I've always said, if the hierarchy in your household, if you're male, however you fuck you want to do it, fine. If you're the man and you're underneath her and she runs the house, your whole shit is out of order. So that to me is like, that's not alpha male shit. You know what I mean?
I do.
Yeah. Word. Alex, I think it depends on the room, maybe. Depends why I'm there too. You know what I mean? Like when I come in the room, I'm not checking for a bunch of now. I still do this, even though in my big age, I walk in a room or a club, I'm like, I'll whoop everybody ass in here. Then I go about my, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. You walk in, you check the doors, and like, you know what? I'm safe in this motherfucker. Then I go about my business, you know what I mean? But I'm not really checking for like who, you know what I mean? So, but I get if I made a point to, I'm sure I could, you know what I mean?